The rain lashed against the windows of our Seattle home, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. I'm Alistair, a software engineer. I was 46, and until a few weeks ago I thought I had it all. A beautiful wife, Renata, a comfortable home, and a life filled with quiet contentment. Renata, a talented architect, was the vibrant, artistic counterpoint to my logical, analytical nature. We'd been married for 15 years, a testament, I believe, to our enduring love and commitment. It started subtly. Renata began working late more frequently, citing urgent deadlines and demanding clients. I didn't think much of it at first. Renata was ambitious and dedicated to her career. Long hours were part of the territory, but then came the secretive phone calls, whispered conversations in the hallway, and a sudden protectiveness of her phone. She'd flinch if I even glanced at it, claiming it was full of confidential client information. The change in her was palpable. The warmth and affection that had always characterized our relationship seemed to be fading, replaced by a coldness I couldn't understand. She was distant, irritable, and increasingly critical of me. My attempts to connect with her were met with indifference or thinly veiled annoyance. I felt like I was walking on eggshells in my own home. The first real red flag came during a weekend getaway to the San Juan Islands. We'd planned it for months, a chance to reconnect and escape the pressures of our daily lives. But Renata was preoccupied and distracted the entire time. She spent hours on her phone, ostensibly dealing with work emergencies, but her explanations felt hollow and unconvincing. One evening, while she was supposedly on a call with a client, I overheard her laughing, a light, carefree sound I hadn't heard in ages. It wasn't a work laugh. It was the laugh of someone deeply happy, deeply connected to the person on the other end of the line. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach. Back in Seattle, my suspicions grew. I started paying closer attention to Renata's comings and goings. I noticed she was taking extra care with her appearance, wearing clothes she hadn't worn in years and spending more time on her hair and makeup. She had always been beautiful, but there was a new, almost desperate quality to her efforts, as if she was trying to impress someone. One Tuesday, Renata told me she had a late meeting and wouldn't be home until late. I worked from home that day, and around 6 p.m., I decided to surprise her at her office with dinner. I knew she'd been skipping meals lately, and I thought a little gesture of support might help ease the tension between us. Renata's office was in a sleek, modern building downtown. I rode the elevator to her floor, a takeout container of her favorite Thai food in hand. As I approached her office, I noticed the door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, expecting to find her hunched over her computer, buried in paperwork. What I saw instead stopped me dead in my tracks. Renata was locked in a passionate embrace with a man I'd never seen before. His back was to me, but I could see Renata's face, her eyes closed, a look of pure ecstasy on her features. It was a look I hadn't seen directed at me in years. The takeout container slipped from my grasp, clattering to the floor. The sound startled them. Renata gasped and pulled away from the man, her eyes widening in horror as she saw me standing there. "Alistair," she stammered, her face paling. "It's not what you think, isn't it?" I said, my voice trembling with rage and disbelief. "Because it sure looks like you're cheating on me." The man turned around. He was tall and handsome, with a smug, self-assured look on his face. "Look, buddy," he said, stepping forward. "This is a misunderstanding. Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Get out before I do something we'll both regret." The man hesitated for a moment, then shrugged and walked past me, bumping my shoulder as he went. I barely registered his presence. My entire focus was on Renata, who was now sobbing uncontrollably. "Alistair, please," she begged. "Let me explain." "Explain what, Renata?" I said, my voice rising. "Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could throw away 15 years of marriage for him." "It just happened," she said, her voice choked with tears. "I didn't mean for it to happen, it just happened." I repeated, incredulous. "You just accidentally fell into bed with another man. Is that what you're telling me?" She didn't answer. She just stood there, sobbing, her face buried in her hands. I turned and walked out of the office. The image of Renata in another man's arms seared into my brain. I stumbled out of the building, the rain washing over me, but it couldn't cleanse the filth I felt inside. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing, my heart aching. That night was a blur of anger, grief, and confusion. Renata followed me home and pleaded with me to forgive her, to give her another chance. She claimed it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, that she still loved me and wanted to save our marriage. But I couldn't bring myself to believe her. The trust was gone, shattered into a million pieces. Who was he, Renata? I asked, my voice flat. What's his name? She hesitated, then whispered, his name is Kendrick. He's a colleague, I said, nodding slowly. So this wasn't just a one-time thing, was it? You've been seeing him for a while. She didn't answer. Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. I want you to leave, I said, my voice trembling. I want you out of my house. Alistair, please, she cried. Don't do this. We can work through this. I promise I'll never see him again. It's too late, Renata, I said, shaking my head. You've broken something that can't be fixed. I can't trust you anymore. I don't even know if I can look at you anymore. She left that night, taking a suitcase full of clothes and a lifetime of memories with her. I watched her drive away, feeling a profound sense of loss and betrayal. My world had been turned upside down in a matter of hours. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I barely ate, barely slept. I spent my days in a fog of grief and anger, replaying the scene in Renata's office over and over in my mind. I couldn't understand how she could do this to me, how she could so easily discard our life together. I confided in my best friend, Gareth, a burly, no-nonsense mechanic who had always been my rock. He listened patiently as I poured out my heart, offering words of comfort and support. You deserve better, Alistair, he said, patting me on the back. Renata's the one who screwed up. Don't let her ruin your life. Gareth's words helped, but the pain was still raw and consuming. I knew I needed to take action, to do something to reclaim my life and move forward. I started by contacting a lawyer and filing for divorce. It was a painful process, but it was also a necessary one. I couldn't stay trapped in a marriage built on lies and deceit. As the divorce proceedings moved forward, I learned more about Renata's affair with Kendrick. It turned out they had been seeing each other for months, meeting for secret lunches and weekend getaways. Renata had even used our joint savings account to pay for some of their trysts. The betrayal cut even deeper than I had imagined. One evening, while I was sorting through some old files, I stumbled upon a box of photographs from our wedding. I sat down and looked through them, my heart aching with nostalgia. There we were, Renata and I, young and in love, full of hope for the future. It was hard to reconcile the woman in those photos with the woman who had betrayed me so callously. As I continued to look through the photos, I noticed something strange in one of them. It was a picture of Renata and her bridesmaids taken outside the church after the ceremony. In the background, standing near a group of guests, was Kendrick. He was looking directly at Renata, his eyes filled with an intensity that made my blood run cold. I stared at the photo, my mind racing. How did Renata know Kendrick back then? He was never mentioned. We were together for years before we got married. Unless... I felt a sickening wave of realization wash over me. Renata and Kendrick had known each other long before she and I had met. I knew I had to find out the truth. I contacted a private investigator, a discreet and efficient woman named Bront, and asked her to look into Renata's past. I didn't tell her what I suspected, but I gave her the photo and asked her to find out everything she could about Renata's relationship with Kendrick. A few days later, Bront called me with the results. "Mr. Faulkner," she said, her voice grave. "I think you should come to my office. I have some information that you need to see in person." I drove to Bront's office, my heart pounding in my chest. I had a feeling I wasn't going to like what I was about to hear. Bront led me into her office and showed me a file containing documents, photographs, and transcripts of interviews. "Your wife, Renata, and Kendrick have been involved for a very long time," she said. "They met in college and were deeply involved. According to my sources, Renata's family disapproved of Kendrick, and she was pressured to end the relationship. That's when you met her. It appears she was looking for a stable, successful man to provide her with the life she wanted, while secretly maintaining contact with Kendrick." I was stunned. It was all a lie. Our entire marriage had been built on a foundation of deceit. Renata had never loved me. I was just a convenient placeholder, a means to an end. Bront continued, I also discovered that Kendrick has been struggling financially for years. He's heavily in debt and has a history of failed business ventures. It seems Renata has been secretly supporting him, using money from your joint accounts. The anger that had been simmering inside me for weeks finally boiled over. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Renata had not only betrayed me, but she had also used me, manipulated me, and stolen from me. Is there anything else? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Bront hesitated, then said, there's one more thing. I found evidence that Renata and Kendrick have been planning to leave the country together. They've been transferring funds to an offshore account and have purchased one-way tickets to Italy. Italy. Renata had always dreamed of living in Italy. It was a dream we had shared, a dream I thought we would fulfill together. But she had been planning to go there with Kendrick, leaving me behind to pick up the pieces of our shattered life. I thanked Bront for her work and left her office, my mind reeling. I needed to act fast. I couldn't let Renata and Kendrick get away with this. I needed to expose them, to make them pay for what they had done. I went straight to my lawyer and presented him with the evidence Bront had gathered. He was shocked by the extent of Renata's deception and assured me that we had a strong case for fraud and theft. He immediately filed a motion to freeze Renata's assets and prevent her from leaving the country. The next day I received a call from Renata. She was frantic, her voice filled with panic. She had found out about the frozen assets and the travel ban. Alistair, what have you done? She screamed. You're ruining my life. You ruined our life, Renata, I said, my voice cold and hard. You betrayed me, you lied to me, and you stole from me. Now you're going to face the consequences. Please, Alistair, she begged. I can explain. We can still work this out. There's nothing to work out, Renata, I said. It's over. I am done with you. I hung up the phone, feeling a sense of grim satisfaction. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. The divorce proceedings dragged on for months, but in the end, justice prevailed. Renata was found guilty of fraud and theft and was ordered to repay the stolen funds. She was also barred from leaving the country without my permission. Kendrick, too, faced consequences. His wife, after being presented with the evidence of his affair with Renata, filed for divorce and took him for everything he had. He lost his job, his house, and his reputation. Renata and Kendrick's dream of a new life in Italy was shattered. They were left with nothing but each other, two broken people who had destroyed everything in their path. As for me, I slowly began to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy. The pain and betrayal lingered for a long time. But with the support of my friends and family, I eventually found a way to move forward. I sold our house in Seattle and moved to a small town in Oregon, where I bought a cabin in the woods and started a new chapter. I spent my days hiking, fishing, and working on my software projects. I found peace and solitude in the beauty of nature. One evening, as I sat on my porch, watching the sunset over the mountains, I received a text message from an unknown number. It was a picture of Renata and Kendrick standing outside a courthouse. They looked haggard and defeated. The caption read, "Just got married. Thought you'd want to know." I stared at the picture for a long time, feeling a strange mix of pity and satisfaction. They were finally together, but their happiness was built on a foundation of lies and betrayal. I knew their relationship wouldn't last. They were destined to repeat the same patterns of deceit and manipulation that had destroyed our marriage. I deleted the picture and turned off my phone. It was time to let go of the past and focus on the future. I had learned a valuable lesson from my experience with Renata. I had learned that trust is precious and fragile, and that betrayal can leave scars that never fully heal. But I had also learned that I was stronger than I thought, and that I was capable of surviving even the most devastating heartbreak. I took a deep breath and smiled. The sun had set and the stars were beginning to appear in the sky. It was a new day, a new beginning, and I was ready to embrace it.